patient hunter gets the kill.
The trailer for House of the Dragon Season 3 Episode 6 just arrived, and it changed everything fans thought they understood about where this war is heading. The Dance of the Dragons has finally reached the point of no return, and this footage confirms it. Will Criston Cole survive the Butcher's Ball, or does the trailer already show his final moments? Will Aemond reunite with Vhagar and drag Harrenhal into the flames? Is Rhaenyra about to lose control of King's Landing from the inside, while her enemies close in from without? Will Daeron Targaryen refuse Ormund's war, or become the weapon his uncle has always wanted him to be? Will Alys Rivers finally reveal what she truly wants from Aemond, and will that price destroy him? Can Rhaenyra and Daemon survive the fracture already forming between them before it tears the Black faction apart? Every single one of those questions has an answer, and this breakdown covers all of them. The single most important moment in this trailer is the one that arrives almost too fast to register. Criston Cole, standing in the Riverlands with the remnants of an army around him, preparing to walk into something he already knows he will not walk out of. The weight of what that scene carries is genuinely staggering for every fan who has watched this character move from Rhaenyra's lover to the most hated knight in Westeros to this, a man who has stripped away every illusion and chosen the one honest version of himself that remains, a soldier marching toward his own end. What makes this moment so painful is that the show has spent 3 seasons building toward it with a patience that now feels almost cruel in hindsight. Every scene of Cole's cruelty and ambition was the show laying track for this moment, a man who spent years grasping for power, realizing, only at the very end, that the only thing he ever genuinely understood was war. The trailer shows the Riverlands campaign collapsing into what fans of the source material have long dreaded, the battle that history will call the Butcher's Ball, and the footage makes it clear that what is coming for Cole is not a heroic last stand. It is a slaughter. The evidence of this is visible in every frame, the chaos of the men around him, the impossible odds pressing in from every direction, the complete absence of dragon support that every green military campaign has been built upon assuming. Something truly terrible is about to happen in the Riverlands, and the show has made absolutely certain that fans understand exactly what they are about to lose. However, the situation is far more complicated than a single death, because the Butcher's Ball does not only kill Criston Cole, it kills the idea, shared by every surviving Green commander, that ground forces can hold the field without dragon cover. That idea, dying in the Riverlands, ripples outward into every other conflict the trailer is showing, and understanding that connection is the key to understanding why Episode 6 is not just a battle episode. It is a turning point in the entire war. However, the situation for House Black is far more complicated than a single battlefield defeat. The trailer shows Rhaenyra Targaryen standing before her small council and delivering a line that reveals the full scale of what Ormund Hightower has accomplished. She cannot let this go unanswered. The problem is that answering it requires a clarity of purpose she no longer fully possesses. Aemond Targaryen is visible in the same sequence pushing back, asking what fans hear as a chilling question, at what cost? This is not a small disagreement. The crack forming between Rhaenyra and Daemon is one of the most emotionally loaded threads in the trailer, because fans understand that a united Black Council was already the only structural advantage the Targaryens of Dragonstone had over the growing Green coalition in the field. The hope embedded in Rhaenyra's capture of King's Landing now feels genuinely fragile. However, unfortunately, the trailer makes clear that fragility is about to be tested in ways the Queen is not prepared for. The most likely explanation for what the trailer is building toward in the Riverlands is the full arrival of the Butcher's Ball, and the evidence strongly suggests that Criston Cole's story ends in Episode 6. The proof of this is visible not just in the footage, but in what has emerged outside it. Actor Fabian Frankel confirmed in a recent interview with Variety that the battle choreography he learned was long and arduous, describing it as brilliantly constructed, the kind of language an actor uses when speaking about a defining sequence, not a minor skirmish. Reports have strongly suggested that Frankel completed his filming with Episode 6, which would align precisely with what Fire and Blood describes. Cole cut down in the Riverlands, his army destroyed around him, the Green campaign in the field losing its most experienced and most dangerous commander at a stroke. What makes this reading of the trailer so compelling is the way the show handled Cole's final conversation with Ormund Hightower in episode 5. Cole revealed his plan with the calm of a man who has already made his peace with the outcome. He told Ormund the truth because he no longer needed to protect his own future. That moment was the show drawing the door shut on any reading of Criston Cole as a survivor. The trailer for episode 6 simply shows fans what is on the other side of that door. The consequence of this for the war is enormous. If Cole falls at the Butcher's Ball, Ormund Hightower loses the one military mind capable of organizing effective ground resistance between Tumbleton and King's Landing. Daeron Targaryen would be left with dragons and ambition, but no experienced general to channel either into anything resembling a coherent campaign. And if this theory proves correct, the consequences for Rhaenyra are paradoxical and devastating, because Cole's death removes her greatest enemy in the field at the exact moment that Ormund's deeper campaign, the one being waged through assassination and propaganda inside King's Landing itself, is accelerating beyond her ability to contain it. The show is engineering a situation where the Black faction wins the battle in the Riverlands and simultaneously loses the city. Every fan watching this trailer can feel that trap closing, and that is precisely why watch time on this episode will be extraordinary. But that development raises an even more dangerous question about Aemond Targaryen. The trailer shows him recovering at Harrenhal alongside Alys Rivers, and what fans are seeing in those frames is not the cold and calculating prince from earlier seasons. The evidence strongly suggests that Alys has done something to Aemond that no battlefield ever could. She has made him dependent. The trailer makes it clear that Aemond remains cut off from Vhagar, cut off from the war, and cut off from the brother and mother he left behind. Vhagar departed of her own will, which the show has consistently framed as a reminder that dragons are not instruments but creatures, and the largest living dragon in the world, choosing to leave her rider behind, is not a footnote. It is a seismic event in the power structure of the dance. What the show appears to be building toward is a version of Aemond who has been stripped of every identity he built himself around. His dragon, his authority as Prince Regent, and his role as the Green faction's most terrifying weapon. All that remains at Harrenhal is the man underneath the prince, and Alys Rivers is the only person in Westeros currently close enough to see that man clearly. Fans watching closely will notice that the trailer frames Alys as towering over Aemond in the Harrenhal sequences, a visual language the show has used consistently to signal who holds actual power in any given scene. Ormund's voice plays over these images in the trailer. The patient hunter gets the kill, and that line does not appear to be spoken to Cole or about the Riverlands campaign alone. The most logical conclusion is that it functions as a thematic declaration across multiple storylines simultaneously. Alys has been the patient hunter in Harrenhal, and episode 6 may be the moment she finally moves. The question every fan watching this trailer is now asking is what Alys Rivers actually wants from this arrangement, because the trailer refuses to answer it directly, and the source material offers only the most haunting of suggestions. And if this theory proves correct, and Alys has been using Harrenhal and whatever power she holds there to keep Aemond from Vhagar deliberately, then the moment that bond breaks, the moment Aemond discovers what he has been held from, the consequences for every person within dragon range of Harrenhal are unthinkable. However, unfortunately, the trailer makes clear that those consequences are now imminent. The evidence also points toward a third crisis, converging on Rhaenyra, from a direction no one in her council has managed to address: the Vale. Rhaenyra Targaryen is summoned by Lady Jane Arryn in the trailer, and fans watching closely will notice that this scene is framed as a summons rather than an arrival of allies. The Vale's role in the Dance of the Dragons has always been the most politically ambiguous alliance Rhaenyra holds. Lady Jane Arryn declared for the Blacks early and publicly, but that declaration was never unconditional, and the show has been careful to portray Jane as a woman who calculates every move with the cold precision of someone who has survived in a seat of power, by never spending political capital without a return. The most likely explanation for why Rhaenyra is being called before Jaina now is that news from the Riverlands and Tumbleton has reached the Eyrie, and Jaina's calculation is changing. If Cole is dead, and Ormund holds Tumbleton with 2 dragons, and Daeron Targaryen as his symbolic king, the Vale is no longer looking at a war Rhaenyra is winning. The evidence of this reading is visible in how the trailer cuts the scene. Rhaena does not appear to be arriving as a representative of strength. She appears to be arriving as someone who needs something. However, what Rhaena also brings to the Eyrie is something Jaina Arryn cannot ignore: dragonfire and the potential to shift the military picture in an instant. The most logical conclusion is that this summit in the Vale is not a comfortable alliance meeting. It is a negotiation between 2 parties who need each other and trust each other only partially, at the worst possible moment in the war. And if this theory proves correct, the consequences for Rhaenyra are a potential reshaping of the entire eastern flank of her campaign, for better or catastrophically worse, depending entirely on what Rhaenyra promises Lady Jaina Arryn in that room. Every detail in this trailer points toward a queen who is fighting on 3 fronts simultaneously: inside King's Landing, in the Riverlands, and now in the Vale, with her most powerful weapon, Daemon, increasingly at odds with her judgment about where those fights need to be won first. The trailer makes it clear that this fracture between them is not rhetorical, it is structural, and it is widening. While the main conflict dominates the trailer, there is another storyline quietly unfolding in the background that every fan needs to pay attention to, and it belongs to Daeron Targaryen. Daeron is the youngest Targaryen prince, the rider of Tessarion, and by every account in the trailer, the least bloodthirsty person in his uncle Ormund's orbit. The tragedy of Daeron's situation is that he has been installed as the symbolic centerpiece of a campaign he did not design and cannot fully control. Ormund has been minting coins with Daeron's face, orchestrating the assassination of Goldcloaks, positioning his nephew as the green alternative to Joffrey Valerion on the throne, and now marching toward what he frames as the final confrontation of the war. All of it without ever genuinely asking Daeron what he actually wants from any of this. The weight of what Daeron is carrying is visible in every scene the show has given him this season. He is not Aegon's nihilism or Aemond's violence. He is something more dangerous to his own faction, a true believer in something the war has not yet asked him to betray. The trailer shows Ormund delivering his warning about the patient hunter with a calm that belongs to a man who has already decided the outcome. However, what the trailer also shows, positioned behind that certainty, is Daeron, and the show frames him with a deliberate unease that fans of Ormund Hightower's arc this season will recognize immediately. Ormund walked away from Cole's suicide mission. The evidence strongly suggests that the show is building a version of Daeron who is being pushed toward a similar choice, and that Ormund's Tumbleton campaign may not survive that moment of reckoning intact. Fans who have followed the source material know what Fire and Blood says about what eventually happens at Tumbleton, and the devastating role Daeron's fate plays in its aftermath. However, unfortunately, the show has already demonstrated a willingness to deviate from the text when deviation serves the character arcs better. And what is building in this trailer around Daeron does not feel like it is moving toward the Fire and Blood outcome on a straight line. The most logical conclusion is that Episode 6 will force Daeron to confront not just the cost of the campaign being waged in his name, but whether the young man beneath the Targaryen prince is willing to keep paying it. Connecting back to the main conflict, if Daeron hesitates at the wrong moment, or worse, if he refuses, it creates a fracture inside the Green Coalition at Tumbleton that Rhaenyra's forces in the Riverlands and the Vale could potentially exploit, provided she and Daemon can stop fighting each other long enough to recognize the opening. Every detail in this trailer points to Daeron Targaryen as the wild card that neither side has fully calculated for, and Episode 6 may be the moment that changes. After everything this trailer has revealed, the Butcher's Ball approaching in the Riverlands, Aemond held at Harrenhal by something stronger than chains, Rhaenyra fractured from Daemon, the Vale's alliance shifting beneath her feet, and Daeron trapped between his uncle's ambitions and his own conscience. The question every single fan is now focused on is the simplest and most important of all: when does Episode 6 actually air? House of the Dragon Season 3, Episode 6 premieres on Sunday, July 26, 2026, on HBO and Max. The episode was written by David Hancock and Shyam Popat, and directed by Loni Perister. With only 3 episodes remaining in Season 3 after this one, the timeline is extraordinarily compressed. That means Episode 6 is not a setup episode, it is a detonation episode, one where threads that have been coiling since the season premiere finally release. For fans who have been waiting for the Butcher's Ball since Fire and Blood first described it, that wait ends this Sunday. For fans who have been watching Aemond's disintegration at Harrenhal with a kind of horrified fascination, this Sunday brings answers. Based on everything the production timeline has confirmed so far, the wait is going to be significantly shorter than most fans are expecting. And based on what this trailer has shown, that wait is going to feel very long indeed. Now the conversation moves to the fans. Will Criston Cole go out on his own terms at the Butcher's Ball, or will the show find a way to deviate from the source material and keep him alive long enough to face consequences in King's Landing? Is Alys Rivers deliberately holding Aemond at Harrenhal to protect him, or is she keeping him in place for a purpose that benefits no one but herself? And when Daemon finally moves against Ormund's network inside the city, does he do it with Rhaenyra's blessing, or despite her? The video on screen covers everything else fans need to know before Episode 6 drops.